Шановні колеги, всім доброго ранку. Український кризовий медіа-центр розпочне.
Good morning. The UCMC is starting its work. The Lieutenant Colonel Oleksiy Chernobai, the representative of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine spokesperson.
Good morning, dear friends. Happy to see you at our briefing on the scope of finalizing the Strategic Defense Bulletin of Ukraine, the consultations between the Ministry of Defense and General Staff and NATO office and advisors continue. The Ministry of Defense Four-star General Paul Tarak had involved to this process the foreign experts because the Strategic Defense Bulletin will define the ways and the approaches of the defense policy by 2020. The involvement to the drafting of this document of foreign advisors will allow to approximate Ukrainian training standards to the NATO standards. During the last week, 4 working meetings of the Ministry of Defense were held, and also there were some consultations at the expert level. Very soon the Strategic Defense Bulletin will be discussed at the National Defense and Security Council. Also, the Ministry of Defense continues to implement reforms on the framework of reforming the Ministry of Defense and bringing it to the NATO standard. The Ministry of Defense has signed one more order that repealed 630 orders of the previous ministers issued in the period between 1992. In particular, those repealed orders included the orders about provisions of the Black Sea Fleet, Black Sea Navy within the independent states Commonwealth. Also, these were very old prescriptions about establishing commissions, etc. This is the third such order signed by the minister, which repeals a lot of the previous useless orders. Thus, between 2010 and 2014, there were 584 orders of the minister which had become useless now, and they were cancelled. Also, the Minister of Defense had signed the order which allocates 587 million hryvnia for residential housing for the officers of the military forces of Ukraine. This would allow to provide 1,100 servicemen with accommodation and residential housing. Thus, in the year 26, the reconstruction, and purchases of housing would allow to allocate this 1,100 families. During the first half of this year, 481 flats in Odessa, Lviv, Ivano-Frankivsk, Zaporizhzhia, Kyiv, Donetsk, Zakarpattia, Sumy, Rivne were allocated to the servicemen. Out of them, 143 flats were awarded to the ATO participants. In order to preserve the infrastructure of the Ministry of Reform, the construction plan and capital overhaul of the military objects for 2016 was passed. And as of now, the capital overhaul and reconstruction are carried out in 113 military objects. Moreover, in Rivne, Vasilkiv, Lviv, and Starechi, the reconstruction works continues in 4 big houses, which will provide 700 residential flats. Also, the reform of the document which will be passed by the Cabinet of Ministers on the new concept of reforming accommodation of the military forces officers and their families was drafted and submitted to the government. Implementation of this strategy will allow to provide Ukrainian servicemen with compensations for proper housing, to introduce the mortgage system and schemes for them, and to create the funds of the service accommodation. As of today, the implementation of the state order for purchases carried out by the Ministry of Defense continue, and as of today, more than 100 contracts amounting to 3,270 million were allocated. Also, the testing of the specialized armored vehicles of Kazakh, Varta, crossbars series were carried out, and in the course of testing, it was stated that this new machinery complies with the requirements. During the last week, also the repair brigades of Ukrainian military forces had finalized the repairs of 132 units of military equipment and vehicles. The quality of the repairs is checked and tested by special representatives of the Ministry of Defense, which are present in all the enterprises delivering such repair brigades for the providing such repair brigades for the ministry, and more than 1,700 million hryvnia was spent by the ministry for these purposes. Also, besides their monitoring of the quality, the military representative of the ministry in companies prevented any excessive costs amounting to 570 million hryvnia. Also, in line with the recommendations provided by auditors, the Ministry of Defense prevented losses amounting to 16.5 million hryvnia. Thus, they decreased the costs of repairs and overhauls, accommodation, etc.